Om Sadashiva-Samarambham Shankara-Ashankara-Bhashya-Vimarshah Asmadacharya-Paryantam Vande Guru-Paramparam. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryankaravavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti 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 Jnananandamayam Devam Nirmalasphटिकाकृतिम् Adharam Sarva Vidyanam Hayagrivam Upasmahe. Om Shri Hayagrivaya Namaha. Om Shri Vallabha Sameta Shri Mahaganadhipataye Namaha. Now we are in the new topic, brahmanah chidrupatva-upapattih. Already brahmanah satyatva-upapattih we saw that Brahman is the Sat Shabda Vachya. Brahman alone can really be the Sat Shabda Vachya. In fact, he is starting like that. Atha Sat Shabda Vachyam Brahmaiva Kim Anubhavaha. So now the question to be asked is, whatever is available as existence, what is the nature of that existence? That existence is something which is conscious or it is jada, correct? It is chidrupa or anubhava swarupa, or is it something which is jada? That is the question here. So here kim anubhavaha means jnana swarupam only is called as anubhavaha here. And further what he is asking, uta brahma anubhavayoho bhedaha, otherwise he is asking, is Brahman itself the anubhava or jnana swarupa, or there is a bheda between Brahman and anubhava or jnana? That is now being analyzed. Iti vicharyate. Now what does Ramanuja say here? So he is first giving that anubhava vishayatvat brahmanaha na anubhavatvam. So Ramanuja is saying Brahman is anubhava vishaya. Therefore anubhavatvam cannot be there for Brahman. So this is very, that's what I think they always take even jnanam as a dharma, and Brahman is a dharmi, in which even anubhavatvam they don't accept, I think, or it is both chit and jada and all that they say, which itself is contradictory. Anyway, so Ramanuja is saying this, it is Brahman is anubhava vishaya, and therefore it cannot have anubhavatvam. Where he has said that, we have to go and see. Even I have not read enough Ramanuja Bhashya. Somehow I didn't find interest also after some time. So here he is saying like this, which is very surprising to me also. So anubhavaha hi vishayi. So the anubhava can be there only with the vishayi, correct? The subject, because the subject is the one who is cognizing or to whom something becomes evident. Whatever becomes evident cannot be anubhava swarupa or anubhava. It is only an object of your cognition, correct? The vishaya. So here anubhavaha hi vishayi, he says. Vishaya Vishayinoho tu Bhedaha Prasiddhaha eva, and since Brahman is Vishaya, it cannot be Vishayi. So there is this Bheda, this separateness between the object of cognition and the subject is very well known. It is popular, he says. So Prasiddhaha eva iti Ramanujaha. So Ramanuja says Brahman is not Jnana Swarupa. And this is a big thing. So he says Tad Asat, it's not true, it's not correct. Why? Kim ayam anubhavaha jnanam yadva jnana avachedaka vrittihi. So what do you call by anubhava? See, in all these problems, correct? Many times people are arguing based on some words. Now, first, how do you even define that word? How one person has understood that word itself is totally different from how another person understands that. And without they both even understanding how they have understood it, they are fighting, correct? That is the problem in many arguments also. Anyway, so here we are trying to understand what does Ramanuja mean by anubhava to say that Brahman does not have anubhavatvam. We ask the question, Kim ayam anubhavaha jnanam yadva jnana avachedaka vrittihi. So the vritti which is characterized by jnanam, or it is jnanam itself, jnana swarupa itself. This is the question. Then if they say this anubhava is jnanam, then we are saying adye katam brahmanaha na anubhavatvam. How can you say that Brahman, this by anubhavaha, if you mean jnanam, then how can you say Brahman is not jnanam? Because the Shruti Pramana is there. So many places it is there, correct? Satyam jnanam anantam brahma, tad aikshata, vijnanam anandam brahma, prajnana ghanam. All these, so many places are there, correct? So, all these jnanam, prajnanam, vijnanam, so many places where Shruti is revealing Brahman as jnanam, how can you say that then it doesn't have anubhavatvam? So, in fact, he says, Tvaya api brahmanaha jnana swarupatvam abhipagatam hi. So, you have also accepted the jnana swarupatvam of Brahman. Even after accepting that, they said that Brahman does not have anubhavatvam. I don't know in what way they say it, that itself is somewhat uh, perplexing, I would say. Anyway, so he is saying you also accept Brahman as jnana swarupatvam. Otherwise, what the other option is what? By anubhava, if you say jnana avachedaka vrittihi, means the mano vritti. Vritti is basically a state of mind or a modification of mind, and that mind which is characterized by the jnana or consciousness itself can be called jnana upacharat, figuratively. Okay. So, dvitiye vritti brahmanaha sakashad bhinna eva iti astu vishay vishay bhavaha brahma vrityoho. So, if you say it is anubhava is vritti or jnana avachedaka vritti, we have no problem. In fact, we also accept that. For us, it is fine because Brahman is not vritti, and vritti is the vishayi, if you say, and the Brahman is the vishaya. The vritti vyaptyatvam of Brahman we also accept. Okay, so in our model of knowledge, any knowledge takes place because there is a vritti vyapyatvam first, and then phala vyapti. Vritti vyapti and phala vyapti we say, correct? Phala vyapyatvam, vritti vyapyatvam and all that. So in the vritti vyapti or vritti vyapti means what? We say that the mind goes through the indriya if indriya pratyaksha. Otherwise, sakshi pratyaksha and all, mind itself is directly having the modification. Correct? Like sukha, dukkha, etc. are sakshi bhasya, we say. So there is a indriya pratyaksha is there, sakshi pratyaksha is there. And in indriya pratyaksha, mind goes through the indriya and takes the form of the object. That is what we call vritti vyapti. Okay. And phala vyapti is then it is objectified, we say. Now, when the vritti vyapti happens, the ajnana is destroyed, we say. Okay. Ajnana with reference to a particular object is destroyed by vritti vyapti, and then you objectify and know this is this. The objectification is the phala vyapti. So the vritti vyapti is mainly ajnana nivritti, and phala vyapti is objectification, or knowing it as an object. Now for Brahman we say vritti vyapti is there. That means the ajnana with reference to Brahman is gone, but phala vyapti cannot be there because Brahman cannot be objectified. Brahman is the very nature of the subject. It is the very nature of the object also. And it is not something which can be objectified by your mind or indriyas or anything else also. It is always aprameya that way. So we say phala vyapti is not there, only vritti vyapti is there. And if you say Brahman becomes the Vishaya of Vritti, Vritti Vishayatvam of Brahman we also accept. So we have no problem. Let there be Bheda here, let there be Bheda. That's not a problem. But now what do they say? This Brahman is called Nyayam Brahma also, correct? That's why we say we have Jignasa and all that. Athato Brahma Jignasa, when you say even in the Brahma Sutra, it has to be the Nyayam Brahma only. Only the Brahman which is to be known can be desired to be known also. So, when you say that, they are saying this Nyayam Brahma has to be Vishaya of Jnana. Like that they are saying. They are now raising the point. Not only of the vritti, that is their point. Okay, Nyayam, if something is Nyayam, it also has to become the Vishaya of the Jnanam also, or whatever we call as Jnana Swarupam is their point. Now, if you say that, what you cannot say, na vachyam. Why? Yadi Jnanam Jnanasya Vishaya Vishaya Syat, Tarhi Brahma api Jnanasya Vishaya Syat. So, if Jnanam can become the Vishaya of Jnanam, then Brahman also can become a Jnana Vishaya, but Brahman is not, but Jnanam cannot be a Vishaya of Jnanam, correct? So that's what he is trying to say here. But Brahman itself is Jnanam here, and Jnanam or consciousness itself cannot become an object of consciousness. That is not there. There is no pramana to establish that also. That is not there in anybody's anubhava. So here Brahman is Jnanam, therefore it cannot be Jnana Vishaya. That's what we are saying. So once we say this what, then they'll come and say, see, even Shastra also says this. Brahma Jnayam eva na Jnanam. So Brahman is presented as something to be known by the Shastra itself. So therefore Brahman is to be known. It is an object of your knowledge. It has to become an object of knowledge. Therefore it is not Jnanam. Like this they are holding on. But then what we say, that also na vacham, you cannot say. Why? Darshita Shruti Virodhat. We have already shown that Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma, Vijnanam Anandam Brahma, Prajnanam Brahma, all these are there. Prajnana Ghanam also is there. It is one homogeneous consciousness. Okay. So all these Shrutis are there. Darshita Shruti Virodhat. You will contradict the Shrutis. Then once we say this, what they also say, what? No, no. In the Gita, it is said, Nyayam yattat pravakshyami yajñātvāmritam ashnute and all that, correct? Bhagavan says that I will tell you what is Nyaya now. And knowing that you will gain Amritatvam. That is Nyayam Brahma is presented by the Gita is saying. So Nyayam Brahmeti Gita su api uktam iti na vachyam. Don't say that Gita also is saying that. When we say Nyayam, we only accept it in the context of vritti vyapyatvam. That's what he is saying. See, vritti vyapyatva lakshanam eva nyayatvam brahmanaha na jnana avabhasyatva lakshanam anyatha shruti virodhena gitayaha apramanya prasanga. Okay, so what we are saying, that Brahman is to be known, that is only in the context of removing the ignorance with reference to Brahman, but it is not for Brahman to be objectified, because Brahman itself being Jnanam, it cannot be objectified again. Okay, it cannot become a Jnana Avabhasya. Avabhasya means what? That which is lighted up. And Brahman being Jnanam cannot be again lighted up by another Jnanam. It itself is Swaprakasha also, we say, correct? Swayam Jyoti Swarupa. There is whole Swayam Jyoti Brahmanam in Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. So Brahman is Swayam Jyotihi, Swaprakashaha, and it does not require any bhasya, any bhasa, we have to say. It doesn't require any other light. It is already a light. A light does not require another light to be known, correct? That is what we are saying. Tameva bhantam anubhati sarvam and all that is there, correct? So, natatra suryo bhati na chandra tarakam. All this we chant every day, even in our temple. So, it is jnana avabhasya, you cannot say. That lakshana is not there for Brahman. If you still maintain that Brahman is a jnana vishaya and it has jnana avabhasya, by taking this Gita Vakya, Gita is only Smriti, and Smriti cannot go against the Shruti, he says, it will become Shruti Virodha. So you should not interpret the Smriti in such a way that it goes against the Shruti. Then the Smriti will become Apramana, so it will get the Apramanya dosha. So Shruti Virodhena Gitayaha Apramanya Prasanga. So there will be a possibility of Gita becoming Apramana if you interpret it in this manner. So you cannot interpret it like this. Okay. And again, Shruti is Swataha Pramanam hi Shrutihi. And Shruti is the Swatah Pramana for us. And Smriti and everything else, anything which is Paurusheya, they derive their Pramanyam only from the Shruti. They may restate it and state it in different ways and all that, but they cannot go against whatever is there in the Shruti. Shruti alone is Swatah Pramana, or it is the one which is accepted as a valid means of knowledge. Smriti hitu Shruti aviruddha eva pramanam. So whatever Smriti is there, it should be Shruti aviruddha. It should not contradict the Shruti. Then only it is a pramanam. Shruti viruddha tu apramanam eva. If it is saying something which is against what is said in the Shruti, it should be considered as apramana. It should not be taken. This is a well established truth we have already. So you cannot interpret the Smriti in a way that it goes against the Shruti. In fact, that's what they do. In fact, this Pancharatra and all that, Vaishnavas have their own Agama where there are some things which are Shruti Virodha. Those portions of that Agama we cannot accept. And so that is what he is saying here. Further, what Nacha Jnanasya Vritti Vishayatvam api Katamiti Vachyam. Okay, now they are raising the question. See, Jnayam Yattat Pravakshyami, Bhagavan himself says that Brahman is Jnayam. And even the Brahma Sutra also is talking about a Jijnasa with reference to Brahman. All these things being there, you are saying that that only points to the Vritti Vishayatvam and not the Jnana Vishayatvam. But how can Brahman even have Vritti Vishayatvam? That is the question now they are asking. So, Jnanasya, which is Brahman in your case, Vritti Vishayatvam api Katham. Now, if you ask like that as an objection, you cannot ask why. What we say is Jnanakara Jnanasya Anuvyavasaya Lakshanasya Paraihi api Abhyuvadatvat. See, everybody also accepts something called Anuvyavasaya. Means Anuvyavasaya means what? See, first we say that whenever a knowledge takes place, this is part is one knowledge. I know I have this knowledge is another knowledge, correct? Another cognition. I know this is part. This is part is knowledge, and I know this is part, or I know that I have this knowledge of this part. Like that, two things are there whenever knowledge takes place. Now, these two things are happening at the same time, or one happens after the other. That is why the anu is there. See, vyavasaya is when we say the mind, or in the Nayayika language, Indriya Artha Sannikarsha, they say. Indriya and Artha have come in contact, then the Vyavasaya happens. This is part. Then I know this part, they say, is actually another vritti, where the first vritti becomes the Vishaya for this vritti and all that. Now that theory also there is a problem, because if you actually propose another vritti, then how do you know that other vritti will become a problem? Then for that, if you say another vritti and all that, anavastha problem will come. So this anuvyavasaya itself, how different darshanas handle this, there are differences. I don't want to go into all that, but all I can say is for Vedantins, we say both these things happen at the same time. Okay, when the mind takes the form of an object, this is part also takes place. I know this part also takes place at the same time, because both are, what we say is, 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 Both are happening through that vritti, which is lighted up by the consciousness. Simultaneously, it happens for us. Okay. But everybody talks about this anuvyavasaya, they have to talk about, correct? Because there are two things really. That this is something, and I know this also is there. So you have also accepted jnanakara jnanasya. That's what he says. The knowledge in the form of knowledge. Because I know that I have this knowledge, correct? I know what I know. That is the jnanakara jnana, you can say, in a simple way. And that is the anuvyavasaya or the whatever. Because that is called anu, because it follows, according to them, it follows the original knowledge. And that is accepted by you or others also. Nayayikas and all, everybody has to talk about it because it is our anubhava. Correct? So that you have accepted. So why cannot Brahman be the vritti vishaya? Okay, then what? Nacha vritti jnanam eva jnanam tad atiriktam sarvamapi jnayameva iti vachyam. So now what they are saying? Vrit jnanam eva jnanam. Jnana is only vritti jnana. There is nothing other than vritti jnanam. Everything other than the vritti jnana is jnaya, is an object of your cognition. Like this, now the Purva Pakshi is arguing. We say that also you cannot say. Na vachyam, why? Vrittehe jnayatvena jnanatva bhavat. We say vritti itself is jnaya really. Because vritti is lighted up by the consciousness only, correct? Vritti is a state of mind or a modification of mind. Mind itself is jada. Mind itself is only the sattvamsha of the Panchabhutas, correct? Has created the mind. And the Panchabhutas themselves have come from Prakriti or Pradhana in Sankhya's term, which itself is Jada. So, this, like I said, the Vritti Jnanam is called a Jnanam. Itself, we have to put it under quotes there because it is only figuratively called Jnanam. Jnanam is really consciousness alone, which is Brahman alone, which is Atma alone. And this Jnanam, you can say, is conditioned by the Vritti. There is a Vritti Upahita, Chaitanyam and all that. The Chaitanya manifests there or appears there or it is conditioned by the Vritti, and therefore Vritti also gets the whatever the name of Jnanam. Otherwise, Vritti also is really Jnaya according to us, and it cannot have Jnanatvam. So, Vrittehe Jnayatvena Jnanatva Bhava. Why? Because what it is very clear, Nahi Jnanam Jnayam Bhavati, Jnayam Va Jnanam Virodhat. Why? Because jnanam cannot be jnayam. Whatever is the subject, which is the vishayi, cannot become the vishaya, the object. Subject, object, both of them cannot be the same thing. And the object cannot become subject because it will become contradiction. Okay. Once we say this, what they don't accept, they say vritti na jnayate. Vritti is not known. Vritti is not a jnana vishaya. Like this they are saying. Means that also they cannot say na vachyam. Why? Ajnayamana vritti anabhyubhagamat. So we cannot, nobody can accept that the vritti is not known. Vritti has to be known, correct? In fact, everybody accepts that vritti is known. Ajnayamana vritti anabhyubhagamat, we say. You cannot say that there is vritti and still say that it is not known. It has to be known. Once we say this, what they say that vritti itself is swaprakasha. This is more like this Vijnanavadi Buddhist. In fact, I think Vishishtadvaitins and all, they accuse the Advaitins as Prachanna Bauddha. But here, if I read all these things, they are aligning more there, correct? So, now what they are saying, Vrittihi, Swayam Prakasha, iti, na Vatyam, you cannot say that. Vritti itself is Swayam Prakasha. How can it be that? Because only Jnana alone is Swayam Prakasha, not Vritti. Jnana Swayeva Swayam Prakashatvat. Vritti, as I told you, is only a modification of the mind, correct? How can it be Swayam Prakasha? It cannot be self-revealing. That is not possible, in fact. And also what nacha vritti swayam prakasha eva iti vachyam. Even after we say this, what? No, no. Vritti is swayam prakasha only. He is holding on to that, doubling down. Means no, you cannot say that. Why? Janma nashavattvena vrittehe tadayoga. So what is the hetu we are saying? Why vritti cannot be swayam prakasha? Because it is having janma and nasha. See, that which has janma and nasha cannot objectify itself, correct? Because how can it reveal its own birth and its own death? That is not possible. That which is born and gone, to know its birth and death, there has to be an invariable witness. Any change can only be cognized if there is a changeless, correct, behind that change. This is the argument we make. Okay, that is why vritti, everybody accepts vritti is transient, correct? Vritti has a birth, or vritti comes into being, and then that vritti also cannot be always the same, correct? If the one vritti alone is there, then your mind will not move only, correct? You cannot recognize anything else. Therefore, vritti cannot be called swayam prakasha. Jnanam alone is swayam prakasha because jnanam is nityam. Understand that? Only a nitya vastu, satya vastu, which is unchanging reality, alone can be also swayam prakasha, not a vritti. Okay, so once we say this, what? Nacha vrittihi swayam prakasha eva iti vachyam. Okay, that we saw. So that's why tatahi ananyavabhasyatve sati swa itara sarva avabhasakatvam swayam prakashatvam. So now he is defining what is swayam prakashatvam. What we are saying, ananyavabhasyatve sati means not being lighted up by anything else. Correct? Ananya avabhasyatve sati means what? It has to be that it should not be lighted up by anything else, but everything else is lighted up by this. That is what we say even in that famous mantra also, correct? Anubhati sarvam we say. Means everything else shines after this Atma. Means they are all lighted up by this Atma, and Atma itself is not lighted up by anything. It shines by itself. So that is what he is defining here. Ananya avabhasyatve sati swa itara. Swa itara means what? It itself is light, and then it lights up everything else also. It is shining and it shines on everything else. So swa itara sarva avabhasakatvam swayam prakashatvam. So now this being the lakshana of swayam prakashatvam, what he is saying, idam nityasya eva vastunaha sambhavati na anityasya. This can be there only for a nitya vastu. It cannot be there for anitya vastu. And vritti is anitya, correct? Vritti is janma nashavattvena anitya. Vritti is anitya. Why? Because it has janma and it is nasha. Like I said, it cannot light up its own janma and its own nasha. All this is not possible. So vritti can never be swayam prakasha. Therefore, what? Tatacha vritya swajanmanashayoho bhanam na bhavati. In fact, that's what he's saying. So, for by the vritti, its own janma and nasha cannot be lighted up or shown. For the vritti itself, its own birth and death cannot become evident, correct? Therefore, vritti cannot be claimed as self-evident. The birth of something can only become evident for something other than itself. And also the destruction or death of something can become evident to only something other than whatever is dying or getting destroyed. So, therefore, what? Bhasana dashayam vrittehe eva bhavaha. Okay. And therefore, what? This this vritti, which is being shined upon, okay, can also not be the one which is shining, correct? Therefore, at this time, during its birth and when it is getting destroyed, the vritti itself is not there, you have to say. So, how can a non-existent vritti shine on its own birth or its own destruction or death? That is not possible. So, bhasana dashayam, in these two dashas, when it is being born and when it is getting destroyed, at that time, vritti itself is not there. How can it make that evident, or how can that become evident to it? Other than this, what anyena kenachit nyayete vritti janmanasha. So that's why we have to say anyena, only something other than the vritti itself. Kenachit means something, whatever it is. Okay, something other than this vritti alone can know. That alone nyayete vritti janmanasha. So nyayete is again dual case. Vritti janmanasha. The janma and nasha of the vritti can be is known only by something other than the vritti. Anyata nissakshikayoho tayoho anabhyuba gama apatte. Otherwise, what? They are not, they cannot, that birth and death of vritti will become nissakshika, and we cannot accept that. Tayoho anabhyuba gama apatte. It will be like we cannot really accept it because it is not witnessed that. Therefore, what? Vritti cannot be Swayam Prakasha. Tasmat yena vritti janma nasha nasho avabhasyete tenaiva vrittihi api avabhasyate iti vrittehe bhasyatyam veva. So, therefore, what? From all these things, whichever consciousness lights up the janma and nasha of the vritti, to that consciousness alone, vritti itself becomes and by that consciousness only it is lighted up, correct? Vritti itself becomes a vishaya of that consciousness. Therefore, vritti is something which becomes evident. It is not self-evident. Vritti is also an object of consciousness only. So, vritti will have bhasyatvam, means that which is lighted up. We have to say it's not the light itself. So, vrittehe bhasyatvam eva. Bhasyatvam alone is there. It is not bhasaka. Okay. But what about jnanam? Jnanam tu nityatvat na kenapi bhasyate. Swa itaram sarvam avabhasayati. So jnanam being nitya, it is not shined upon by anything else. Ameva bhantam anupati sarvam. That is the Shruti. Therefore, swa itaram sarvam avabhasayati. It is shining by itself and it shines everything else also. Okay, once we say this, in fact, this is a very subtle point. When we say this Atma is self-evident and it is shining and all that, does it mean that Atma lights itself up? Or does Atma become, or this Chaitanyam become a Vishaya for itself? Do we mean that by saying that it is shining? Means we don't mean that. This point actually Bhashyakara also beautifully writes a Bhashya in the Swayam Jyotir Brahmana. Okay. So when we say it is Swayam Jyotihi, what we really mean is Swayam Jyotihi does not automatically imply that Atma is both subject and object. Atma is never an object. That remains. Okay. So that is the point he is coming raising now. He is saying Nacha Swamapi Bhasayati iti katham swa itara iti uktihi iti vachyam. So Swamapi Bhasyati. So the Purva Pakshi is saying then what? Jnanam will light up itself. Means it becomes both the subject and object. Okay, and then, so how can you say that it is Swaitara? You said that Swaitara Bhasaka, correct? Jnana is shining itself and it shines everything else, shines on everything else. That means it is shining on itself, means this Kartri Karma Virodha will come again. Subject and object will become one. Means you can't say that. Why? Swasmin Ekasmin Yugapad Bhasyatva bhasakayoho ayoga. What we say is, it is not like it is shining something on itself or anything like that. It is just light. That's all. That's what we mean by that. Swayam Jyoti means it is light and it does not need any other light to shine on it. It is light and it is shining always. That is the thing. So there is no Yugapad, Bhasyatva and Bhasakatva. Both in Atma, it is Swayam Jyotihi. There is no subject object further in that when we say Swayam Jyotihi. In fact, even the Aham Pratyaya, that is why we say for that itself Antakarana is required. Otherwise, Atma cannot be said even as Aham. In fact, the word Atma also is not required, Bhashyakara says. You don't require any word to even refer to this Atma because it is Anubhava Swarupa, correct? Whatever is in your Anubhava, why do you even require a word to refer to it? You don't require any word really. You don't require anything else. It is your own Anubhava Swarupa, it is your own nature which is in the form of Jnanam. That's it. It need not be shined upon. But that's why the Chid Abhasa or whatever, the Chit Pratibimba is required even for knowing as I. Otherwise, that's why in deep sleep also, there is no I sense or I thought and all that. I thought also is only, that's why it is only Aham Karaha, which is there in the form of I. But that also comes and goes. The I thought also is something coming and going, which is equally unreal. But that unreal I thought, whatever you think you are, you hold on to that so much and suffer. That is only samsaritvam, correct? So that's why it is always said that you analyze where this I is coming from and all that. Do the vichara, who am I and all that. Ramana also, Ramana Maharishi and all says that. And he says that means it has to be understood properly. Unless we study Vedanta properly, even that cannot be understood. Because the I thought also is transient. And once you understand that that I thought also is only rising and falling into the or resolving into the same conscious entity which is you, then you will give up that I thought also because it is transient. It's not really your nature. So that is the meaning of inquiring into who am I. Because that I, who am I, in that the I is the I thought. Correct? Or ahankara. And then that inquiry has to lead you to understanding that I am the invariable conscious being in whom even this I thought also rises and resolves. And but whatever rising and resolving and all that is only mithya at the end of the day. It is as it is. That is the nature of this Atma. So there is no subject-object division in this Atma. That Vikalpa also you cannot make. Therefore what? Tasmat Swenaiva bhasyate iti na vaktavyam. Kintu swayameva bhasate iti vaktavyam. Therefore, Atma does not shine on itself, something like that. That is not correct. Swenaiva bhasyate, we don't say. Swayameva bhasate. It is just shining. It is the shine. That's it. Okay, like even the sun is shining. That's it. Okay. That's all we can say. That is its very nature. At least the sun's shine will go away after billions of years. Atma is not like that. It is unchanging, invariable, conscious entity. That doesn't mean that it is shining on itself and all that, and therefore it becomes both subject and object. That we do not accept. So we only say Swayameva bhasate iti vaktavyam. In fact, the meaning of that is what? Swarupenaiva bhati iti tadarthat. So the meaning of that is its very Swarupa is this Bhanam, this consciousness. That's all. Nothing more than that. Tasmad jnanameva swayam prakasham. So jnanam alone is swayam prakasha. Vritti and all cannot be swayam prakasha 100% because vritti has utpatti and nasha. Jnanam alone, which is the nitya vastu, can alone be the jnana swarupa also. And it is swayam prakasha. And it is also, it can only be the real meaning of Anubhava Shabda also. Nothing else can really be the meaning of the word Anubhava or experience, because the very nature of experience is this consciousness. The very nature of any experience is this consciousness alone, which is Jnanam, and it shines by itself. And that is the Anubhava Shabda Vachyam, and that is not separate from Brahma, and it is not separate from Pratyagatma also, correct? Brahma, Pratyak, Abhinnam. So all these words, Jnanam, Swayam Prakasha, Anubhava, Brahman, Pratyagatma, all these different words finally refer to only one reality, one entity, which is yourself. This is the Siddhanta. Okay, next, actually now having established this, that Brahman alone is Swayam Prakasha, and Vritti and all cannot be Swayam Prakasha, and Brahman is not Jnana Vishaya. He now takes up this Swayam Prakashatvam, now the Upapatti. From Chid, okay, Upapatti, now we are going to Swayam Prakashatva Upapattihi, Chaitanyasya Swayam Prakashatva Upapattihi, Tatra Ramanuja Mata Khandanam Cha. So, by establishing that Chaitanya alone is Swayam Prakasha, and that we'll first establish, and also in the process we will negate whatever Ramanuja's opinions are, that we will see in the next class. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.
ధన్యవాదాలు.